Welcome back, folks. African National Congress Secretary General Fikile Mbalula gave a speech in what appeared, based on the hollow acoustics, to be a largely empty venue, spewing tired struggle rhetoric to distract from his party's collapsing political fortunes. It seems as if Fikile Mbalula is on a one-man crusade to destroy diplomatic relations between the United States and South Africa.
The African National Congress calls on all South Africans to rise to this moment, to defend our sovereignty, which in the past months has been under attack.
The hollow hope that painting Donald Trump as the boogeyman, that will revive his corrupt party's fortunes, is a sad spectacle to observe. No one is attacking South Africa's sovereignty. This is a fiction fabricated by the African National Congress to play the victim, while its politicians repeatedly belittle, insult, and mock President Trump in the United States, cavort with known terrorists, conduct naval drills with terrorists, and undermine U.S. sovereignty with a raid on a diplomatic facility and by doxing a U.S. government employee's personal information, thereby jeopardizing his life.
We have been painted as people who are engaged in genocide, and we say no.
Painted as a people engaged in genocide? It's funny, you did that to yourself. You see, it's the African National Congress and South African media who constantly bring up the canard of a genocide, not the Trump administration. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula has officially announced the party will lead a march where it will promote a message of South Africa's sovereignty.
We've been painted as a people which, when we implement transformation laws in this country, it is said we are implementing racist laws, and we say no.
Now, of course, you say you do not have racist laws, but that doesn't change the reality that the race-based laws exist. 145 of them. You can deny it all day. It's no different than the National Party trying to explain to the world and explain away its race-based laws as separate development, apartheid. You just use transformation as your immoral buzzword to accomplish the same thing, to impoverish a minority.
Especially coming from people who pose themselves as world policemen in the world, led by the United States of America, Donald Trump, who have attacked our democracy and our sovereignty. We therefore say no, as a South African people, that we shall not be bullied as a people.
Well, good for him. Who exactly is encroaching on Pretoria's sovereignty? Eswatini? Certainly not America. Fikile Mbalula criticized U.S. Ambassador to South Africa Brent Bozell for his recent utterances on Pretoria's policies. Now, folks, the man who committed crimina injuria and character defamation against Brent Bozell has little to no credibility on this topic. Mabalula's deputy, Nomvulo Mokonyane, labeled Brent Bozell as illegitimate for now, as he's yet to meet President Ramaphosa. Wrong. While Bozell has yet to present his credentials to Ramaphosa, he's perfectly legitimate. He has diplomatic immunity on arrival and is an accredited diplomat who presented his credentials to Durko as required under the Vienna Convention, though he's not fully invested until Ramaphosa meets with him. If, as the ANC fraudulently claims, relationship with America is important, Ramaphosa would have already met with Bozell. After all, when Ramaphosa begged for an appointment with Trump in 2025, the Don cleared his calendar for the ANC's dog and pony show to come to the Oval Office, complete with the white Minister of Agriculture, Kasatu, and Trump's golfing buddies in the clown car show. So why can't Ramaphosa spend 15 minutes with Brent Bozell? Well, it's intentional. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula says the party will not tolerate disrespect from controversial U.S. Ambassador to South Africa, Brent Bozell. Well, Bozell is not controversial except to South African pundits. And again, the man who calls Bozell an unrepentant racist, which, by the way, is a crime in South Africa, as it's unfounded and not supported by evidence, has no credibility in this matter. In fact, I need to ask this question. Does the ANC even know what a genuine racist is? They've so misused the term that I doubt they have any concept of what an actual racist is. Mabalula's comments follow Department of International Relations and Cooperation Minister Ronald Lamola's démarche against Bozell. Now, folks, Fikile would do better to moan about Iran's unrepentant ambassador to South Africa and his embassy's unpalatable X comments, which are definitely undiplomatic, yet they have not been démarched for this conduct. According to this media report, Bozell, during a Biz News-led conference, made undiplomatic comments saying he doesn't care about South Africa's courts ruling that "kill the Boer" chant is not hate speech. Fikile shot back during this press conference where he said the ANC will declare an unmistakable commitment that South Africa's sovereignty is not up for grabs. No, it's not up for grabs. What are you talking about? Nobody's invaded South Africa. No one's put any conditions on you. Now, Bozell's comments were not undiplomatic. They were his personal opinion. The chant was previously declared hate speech by South Africa's courts, so Bozell is not off the mark here, folks. They say Bozell came here and spoke out of turn even before he presented his credentials. He fought against this democracy by protesting against OR Tambo. No, your understanding of history is fractured and incorrect. He didn't fight against this democracy. He fought against a designated terror group, so designated by the United States, the African National Congress. George Shultz in 1987 met with OR Tambo, a representative of a designated terrorist group. Would the ANC meet with designated terrorist groups? Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. Not only do they meet with them, they do naval exercise with them. So I'm sorry. I need to stand back from that comment. Yes. But it's perfectly acceptable for Bozell to make an argument against meeting with Hamas officials in Washington, D.C. We don't negotiate with terrorists. And we shouldn't have done it in 1987. And this is incorrect. He did present his credentials to DIRCO as required. DIRCO's failure to schedule a meeting with Ramaphosa is their failure. Now, after Mabalula addressed the briefing, he took to his Twitter account to say, he disrespected and undermined our courts. We will not allow disrespect, and that's why our government decided to demarche him because of his undiplomatic utterances. Ladies and gentlemen, Fikile Mbalula disrespects the United States, its citizens, our president, and our nation on a weekly basis. If his rantings are anything to go by, the ANC needs to silence Fikile Mbalula, not Brent Bozell. We won't be told by an ambassador what to do when it comes to our transformation policies. Our court's independence will always be respected and protected. No one told you what to do. The thin-skinned victimhood whining displayed by Fikile is endemic to the rapidly sinking SS Luthuli House. Distraction, dishonesty, dishonor, the approach the failing and flailing ANC seems intent on displaying as it heads toward a disastrous municipal election later this year. Now, this nonsense is all for domestic consumption, folks. The ANC would prefer to scupper a critical political and economic relationship of $23 billion a year that will prove costly for millions of South Africans in the misguided assumption that playing the victim will restore the luster to their tarnished brand. Mabalula announced a march to be held on Human Rights Day, Saturday, March 21st. Well, goody. Another march. Yay! No electricity, rampant crime, corruption, no water, no jobs. But we have time to whine about Brent Bozell. The march is titled "In Defense of Our Sovereignty and Democratic Gains," which raised the question, what democratic gains? South Africans are not even permitted to vote for the people who represent them in the municipal council, in the provincial legislature, or in the National Assembly. They don't get to vote for them. It's not a democracy. It's a sham. That is not a democracy. It's an oligarchy of political parties who rule for themselves, not for the people of South Africa. In South Africa, Human Rights Day has specific historical significance, as it commemorates a 1960 Sharpeville massacre where 69 peaceful protesters were killed and 180 wounded by apartheid police while demonstrating against the discriminatory pass laws. True, peaceful protesters, indeed. But as usual, context is missing in that statement. Amongst the peaceful protesters that day were agitators who sought to provoke a violent outcome, and they were successful. In the briefing, Mabalula said it was a challenge to pick South African ambassador to the U.S. due to Washington's stance on Pretoria. Not really. Washington simply expects Pretoria to live up to its obligations under South Africa's own constitution and not pass laws that undermine its own constitution, drafted, promulgated, enacted by a majority black government in 1997. Now, Mabalula's deputy, Nomvula Munkunyane, labeled Bozell as illegitimate for now, as he's yet to meet with Ramaphosa. Again, her comments are illegitimate. And what is Ramaphosa waiting on? So that raised the question, is Ambassador Bozell illegitimate? No, he's not illegitimate. He's the personal representative of President Donald Trump, duly confirmed by the U.S. Senate, and he's presented his credentials to the Foreign Ministry. However, while he is a diplomat, upon arrival, he's not fully accredited ambassador until he meets with the head of state to submit his credentials once more, which raises the question, what is Ramaphosa waiting on? Well, this is all intentional, folks. It's all smoke and mirrors to undermine the credibility and attack the sovereignty of the United States. And it's to be expected. Don't expect to see the ANC appointed ambassador to Washington while Trump remains in office. And don't expect Ramaphosa to have a meeting with Brent Bozell for 3 or 4 months, probably. or maybe even after the municipal elections, thereby kneecapping the ambassador. And they'll demarche him again if he leaves Hatfield. Apparently he's supposed to be a prisoner in his office while he awaits endlessly for Ramaphosa to schedule an appointment for him to present his credentials. Meanwhile, the Iranian ambassador spews vile, repulsive comments every day. No demarche, no action. South Africa undermines its own legitimacy as a sovereign nation through its actions and its mistreatment and abuse of the United States, while ignoring the misconduct of the Iranian ambassador and its embassy in Pretoria. What say you, South Africa, Mzansi? Cheers.